Hello and welcome to the second live panel in preparation of Jazzahead 2021. It's September and that is normally the time when all venues prepare and start the new season after summer holiday. But how is it this year? We call this panel Red Alert Season Start, but what season? Views on the live sector. From Corona we know that we are much more vulnerable than we thought of, and we experienced what cannot be taken for granted. For example, live music. How can it happen and under which conditions? Clear is we have to improvise. To get an overview of what's happening in Europe in that respect, that is what this panel is about. Let me introduce you to the panel. We have from Dublin, Kenneth Killeen. He's the head of the Improvised music company in Dublin, 12 Points Festival as well, and he is newly elected member of the board of directors of Europe Jazz Network. Congratulations, Kenneth. He made a long survey on the situation of live music in Europe. We come to that later. From Hamburg, we have Karsten Schölermann, the managing chairman of LiveKomm, National Association of Music Venues. Who's sitting just in the harbor of Hamburg, preparing a punk festival, as far as I see. And he runs the venue Knust as well, in Hamburg, and which is part of the Reeperbahn Festival that was just opened yesterday night. What are the regulations at Reeperbahn Festival access-wise, Karsten, and how is the situation now there?
All right, as the Reeperbahn Festival was very early announcing that they wanted to do the festival, everybody was something like preparing this 1.50 meter kind of thing, so that we have double chairs with 1.50 meter to the next double chair kind of situation. And as we clubs started earlier building up our experiences, we started with Knust at the 1st of July already doing outside concerts. We started to do this with benches and having benches with 8 people at each, we call them Bierzeltgarnituren. So this is these kind of benches you see right here. So okay. This is more or less the stuff we're doing outside at Bavarian Festes or everything. So that's the two directions everything goes. As long as you're outside, you have every 1.50 meter, you get a maximum of a cluster of 8 to 10 people. This is one solution. The other solution is to do it chair by chair with 2 chairs and each 1.50 meter away. And then, of course, every single visitor is being registered in advance, so the ticket is personalized. And so that you're sure whenever something happens that you can find the guys who need to be informed that somebody had Corona. So this is more or less what we're starting with. Then this is more or less that we are something like having inside of a 500 capacity club, something like 100 people. So
outside. Only outside, or?
No, this is inside. We've got this capacity of 100 people inside, as long as you don't sell any alcohol. Outside, you're already allowed to do some 1,000 people, as long as they got this 1.50 meter. So there's one spot at the Reeperbahn Festival outside with some 800 capacity. So it's a big spot with all these 2 chairs, 1.50 meter kind of stuff.
In Germany, there had been demonstrations as well. We had a big one last week in Berlin with 7,000 people, musicians, venue owners, event technicians, backliners, all freelancers, promoters, bookers. Everybody was there in Berlin, and the whole event industry was there. But what happened, LiveKomm is part of that as well, I think, of this Red Alert thing. And you're the chairman of LiveKomm. What are the political demands of your organization, and what's the status now? I mean, you have some demands there.
Yeah, the thing is that it's a bit of tricky. As you said, the complete event industry had been showing up. So the big event industry companies are something like having almost 800 million kind of turnover every year. So this is a huge difference to the small, medium-sized grassroots venues we represent. So we are the very small, so all the 600 clubs we represent in Germany doing as much as turnover as one of those big companies. And if you take the complete event industry, we're talking about business-to-business kind of events with big fairs, with company kind of presentations. So they just found out that the complete turnover of that branch is just behind the automobile industry in Germany. So it's about 130 billion euro, which is a huge amount. And by pointing this out, and by pointing out that there's still some very small grassroots clubs within, you can imagine that it's a bit of tricky to get all these kind of political demands in a row. And so we just worked today on a paper to be presented to the German Wirtschaftsministerium. As so far, we just had our fundings from the Culture Ministry, and now we are going to get the Economic Ministry ready to get a big umbrella for the big companies as well. And that's a bit tricky, because you have to keep in mind that once you're on the cultural side of life, things are different. And then when you change to the economic side, you have to something like speak with different words. And so we're just starting with that, but it's a long procedure. And I'm very glad that we get this big companies together to speak with one voice.
Yeah, that's of course important, and it's important to include the small ones as well, no doubt. But if the big ones don't work, the small ones won't either. So we all have to work together in that respect, no doubt. Kenneth, you asked festival promoters Europe-wide to describe and to delineate their possibilities and restrictions under Corona. Because it differs from country to country, and it differs from day to day too, and from region to region. What's the evidence of your questionnaire you made as to social distancing and attendance? Yeah. I think that's what it's most interesting for everybody in the business.
I think there are a lot of interesting things. I mean, first of all, to outline, the 27 countries participated in this very informal, outline document that was shared. These comprised of festivals, clubs, other national organizations. The document itself was updated multiple times over the summer, most recently just this week. And what we've learned from this document is it's quite devastating. But it's always good to have some sort of metric analysis of what's happening, because it's easy to say, oh, this is affecting people. But unless you put, as Karsten mentioned, to speak in economic terms, unless you can reflect this back in economic terms, it doesn't have the weight needed for dealing with advocacy and lobbying. So I wanted to understand things like what the social distancing requirements were, what numbers people could have indoors and outdoors at cultural activities. And probably the most important for me was quarantine rules on entering or exiting a country, because I was really thinking about transnational mobility. When it comes to social distancing, I found that about a third of the people who replied, the average distance is 2 meters. Now, for cultural activities and in controlled spaces, which a lot of venues are, the distance is 1.5 meters. And that seems to be relatively consistent. There are very, very small numbers that have 1 meter social distancing, and 1.5 seems to be the mean average.
But that changes, of course. That changes the outline of the attendance drastically.
Well, this is it. I mean,
1 meter or 1.5 meter or 2 meters. I mean, you have in Ireland 2 meters now.
Right now in Ireland, we really don't have, we've no more than 50 people indoors at any event. And they're currently working on regulations for, the arenas, the very large things, because, as I found through this survey, that everybody is kind of trying to find the light switch in the dark here. Governments are putting out information which is, contradictory, because, this is so unprecedented. So, I don't agree with, what our government is doing in Ireland, for example, but I see it replicated across other countries, because this is literally hasn't happened before in many governments and countries' lifetimes. So I suppose it's important to understand that when you think that, your country might be doing a terrible job, yeah, maybe it's not as good as one would like it to be, but, it's kind of everybody is trying to figure it out as they go along. And that's the sad part about it. With regard to indoor activities, I mean, it is the seating arrangement. I've seen, I did this very quickly, one moment. The current operating capacity, the average operating capacity across all of those countries, based on 100% occupancy, is now currently at 31%. So most of these countries are operating at around 30% occupancy. And with the majority of those numbers being around the 20 to 25% mark, so like even lower again if you dig further into that. And these numbers, as you say, Peter, are driven by the strict seating arrangements, the 1.5 by 1.5 or the 1 by 1, the pod system. And also restrictions at the event in terms of how you have to limit your movement, and stagger, things like going to the bathroom, so this all impacts the experience. It's great that we have live music happening again. It's great that we've got artists on stages. It's great that we're paying artists, but we really have to look at the other 50% of the equation, which is the audience and what type of experience they're having. And we all have to come to grips with the reality of it. But like the issue is of the venues is acute, and it's not sustainable. Unless we do something drastic about ticket pricing and we have a frank and honest conversation with the community as a whole. But it's not just space, it is about entry and egress. How many doors do you have into your venue, and create a route. All of this is incredibly difficult to maintain. But you know what, we're doing it because we have to. We have no other choice.
Yeah, but I mean, how to deal with the situation to have less attendance, higher prices and shorter concerts? I mean, this is an equation that does not work in the long run.
No, it doesn't. But Karsten, you go ahead.
The funny thing is that we found out some 5 years ago that the average of audience to show up to a grassroots concert in Germany is 114. So this means this is not big of a difference when we're talking of a maximum of 100 we can handle right now. So when we talk in terms of smaller clubs, then it's probably not that bad to get 50 in. But when we talk about bigger clubs and you have an average of 114 before, now you end up with 100, then the big difference for us, which is a bit strange, is that now, because of Corona, we get funds. And the last 5 years, we wouldn't get funds. It had the same amount of people in. So this leads to better conditions for everybody, which is a weird experience I just do right now. And but so the funny thing is,
for the small clubs, I think. That's true only for the small clubs. Then
the medium size club is 400 capacity. So this is a bit strange.
Yeah, sorry, Karsten, it was breaking up. No, I think that, I suppose the question is, how do festivals and promoters deal with this new reality, take out all of the subvention, take out, governmental intervention, which is a short-term solution, because all of those interventions are going to ebb away, and then you will be back to where we were. However, I do think that this, if anything can be taken out of this terrible pandemic, it is that it has hit the reset button on perceptions of music, and we can use that to our advantage. I really believe that we need to be optimistic in how we reframe the live experience and actually fundamentally reframe the value of music, because I think that irrespective of COVID, that whole value proposition was kind of slowly ebbing away in this kind of different consumerism world that we live in. So I think that we've been extremely resourceful right around the world in the cultural sector, specifically in the music sector, since the start of this pandemic. But the solidarity aspect, of that kind of will fade away as well. And I think we really need to now look forward to what happens, in after Q1 2021, like what happens in April next year, because that's when all these things will have ebbed away. Now the other good advantage is that we can reframe the live equation, the experience for the audience, and I would urge most organizations, if they have the capacity, is to do a survey with their audience to find out how they feel about this hybrid activity, watching concerts online versus being in the room. We know how important it is for an artist to have the audience as well. There's all of these things at play here. So I think we've done a lot of internalizing and looking at our industry. The only thing I would say there is that we've talked more than we ever have, thanks to digital technology. I mean, we're in concert with each other more than we ever have before COVID, and I think that's great. But we do need to keep the audience in mind and tailor the event for them. I mean, when it comes to the pricing, what we found in Ireland, and I'm sure it's replicated because we're human, right? Everywhere across Europe, is that people want to support the arts. They want to support the musicians. They're empathetic towards that. And we did our first paywall online concert like 3 weeks ago, and we were amazed at the number of tickets we sold. We were amazed.
How many were attending, or how many were allowed to attend?
Yeah, so it was like 161 or something like that, and we were expecting maybe 30 or 40. You know what I mean? Because we did not know. It was uncharted territory. However, we did a survey afterwards, and we asked them, why did you attend this online show? And they said, for the music, for the musicians, and to support the musicians. So the quality of the music, the nature of the music, the quality of the music, and then the solidarity.
And they paid for that?
Yeah.
They paid for the online? Okay. Karsten?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that we had the same experience when we started with the kind of online experience with the streaming, and so we found out that the first month with heavily streaming, it was like Kenneth just told us, and then the attention was something like going away, and the people were pointing out that the quality has to be good. So then we started to invest into good cameras and live mix and stuff like that. And this leads to the solution I'm experiencing. I do my experiments at Knust right now by thinking that we need to invent different price categories. When you have just 100 for the concert venue, for the concert room, and another 40 cards for the room next side, and another 40 cards outside with a big screen and headphones, and another 100 cards pay at home, pay per stream at home, and you deliver a pizza with it or whatsoever, then this leads to different price models. And we do this at Knust, that we try to find out how this can work out. And the second thing is that we have just local artists right now, because nobody is on tour. Nobody can finance the tour act. So this is local artists. So it's a big chance for local artists to get a show at Knust and to even play once per month. And then it comes to the third point. Then we found out that at the very beginning with the shows, we almost sold every show out. And even this leads to a better experience. And now we find out that the more secure the people feel about our shows, the more we look to the rules of Corona, the more they come back to the events. Because all the big names had tested out this kind of 1,000 people capacity shows at Karsten Jahnke's Stadtpark, and they couldn't sell out. So, and they cannot sell out Elbphilharmonie right now by having 800 seats in the big Elbphilharmonie. Elbphilharmonie is something like that. They always sold it out. They cannot do it anymore because the people feel insecure about it. So what we need is to really, really, really point out that people want to have a secure feeling by going to the concert. So you really have to point out that they want to sit with their friends. So you have to cluster the places, the way they buy the tickets. So when you've sold 4 tickets, then you can have a 4-seat row and then have 1.50 meter space, and then get the next row, buy 2 tickets being sold together and have a 2-seat cluster. Or even put tables inside so that you get a bit more of familiar feeling with it. And don't press the people to sit 10 people with foreign people at one table. This will not work out. And so this is what we experience in Germany right now, that we are already experimenting a lot, but it's a lot of local artists, and this is a big chance. It's a lot of new inventions, seating, tabling, and stuff like that, and even new kind of products by having say, okay, why don't put 20 seats with a full vegan menu on top of it, and let 20 tables in, even at the sound check by having a nice bottle of wine with it. So I think there's a lot of things to be said, and even with the jazz concerts, where you have this kind of the people want to have a quiet audience. So why not seat the people inside the room and have tables with it with a nice bottle of wine? So and it used to be this like this 40 years ago. So I think it can be the same way again. I don't believe that this Corona thing will be over within a year. So it's probably 2 or 3 years before we come back to normal kind of situations.
Do you think that Corona relocalizes music in a way?
Yes. I think
yes.
that I think it's been fantastic for that, actually, because I mean, everybody is doing right by the musicians in their own country, and maybe the fact that we didn't have international touring, the concept even of 10 cities, 12 days is ridiculous now. You know what I mean? Simply because of the restrictions and quarantining. So going back to the drawing board and rethinking how to present domestic talent has been absolutely huge. And as Karsten said, it's a huge opportunity. And the second opportunity that comes out of that, I think, is the move by everybody, or most people rather, into, let's say, streaming or investment in equipment to have a hybrid situation, the live and the stream, for the people who aren't comfortable attending the shows. Because, I think that what's changed fundamentally now is that how people feel when they're out and about. They feel less safe. Even if it's just something at the very back of your mind or whatever, they do feel less safe. And that, you need to kind of be careful there with people in terms of, because, if you own a venue and people know your venue for a certain experience or quality, and they go back to that venue and they don't have the same experience or quality, or they feel in some way that that venue is not, in their mind, keeping up with the restrictions, the trust goes then, and then you have a kind of a much longer term problem about audiences. But I think that the digital touring model, which is something that we've been working on over the summer, is, digital touring is essentially a carbon neutral idea where we're going to film a lot of Irish jazz bands, jazz and creative improvised music bands, modern, creative improv, and etc. And then we want to have those shows showcased at other venues around Europe. And then there'll be a local domestic, German band, or at your venue, Karsten.
In the stream,
and
you
then
mean? In the stream,
in the
or live.
The Irish band. Well, the audience goes to a live concert, and they get two activities. They get a digital Irish band and a live German band. And the great thing about improvised music is that the German band can do an improvised response to what the Irish band did. And the Irish band have performed in one location, and nobody got on a plane. It's a way of testing a new market. I think we need to embrace all of these kind of lateral ideas. And I'd like to see 2021 be a big deal for this digital touring, because the reciprocation then is that we have an Irish band performing in Dublin, but the support act will be a German band, which is coming in on a high quality feed, Yeah.
Okay.
Or pre-record.
Yeah.
I think that's, as Kenneth just told, lots of ideas like that popping up. We're working in Germany. We're working on a club circle, and try to form a complete 24/7 platform for club concerts. But this platform can be something like you can play it out into a fitness center in a day, and once the American, the Australian, and the international club networks within, then you have a 24/7 chance to play out concerts. So all these kind of stuff, they come right now. And your idea with having some kind of matching concerts, so one band is playing digital at the other band's place, and you make it cross Europe. So fantastic idea. So and you can even do it both ways. That you say you have the digital concept of the German band and the Irish pub as well. So what? And then try to mix them up and have them played, change instruments and have improvised parts of saxophone solo from Ireland on the German concert and whatsoever. So technical, all these kind of things, they are possible. It's a big chance. And most of the things we are experience right now, they will remain. So when Corona's over, those things are not over. So nothing will be as it was before. And this is a big chance, a creative big chance. And as I told before, so I'm not with these kind of, I'm not pointing out that this bad economic situation. It's a very rich creative situation. And we should point out that this is a chance for everybody to reinvent live music and to get more attention to live music and to get better quality from the locals as well, and get something done. So that's my that's my advice.
Yeah, but what is happening to live music then? I mean, because live and stream, that is still something different. I experience that every day at our venue here. When we have concerts, and I examine the stream, how's that working, and I go to the hall and see it there, and it's totally different. I must say.
Yeah, but that's the reason why you should mix it up. So we see many
sure.
kind of live concerts with all the choirs. Like you cannot sing with the choir right now. So
yeah, right.
I mean, this is the modern solution of even have a digital musician on stage, right? So you have a big kind of screen for one musician from all the different countries and mix it up. So make the live thing part of your streaming technology thing and of course, we need to remunerate. We need to get money out of it. Of course, we want to pay the musicians.
And
that's the hardest thing.
That's another point to remunerate on streaming. We have paid streaming here, and we have YouTube as well. We have Facebook, but how to remunerate the streaming? High quality, that's for sure. That's necessary. Nobody would pay for inferior quality, but although they take inferior quality and don't take care of the better quality, and if they get that without payment. So I think the remuneration is a special topic there, because with streaming or streaming services like Spotify or so, your remuneration is small already, and that will get more difficult, I think, when 24/7 anything is around streaming-wise in the world. I mean, where is the audience then to catch up with all the offers there? That is, we have to have a distance between streaming and live as well, I think.
Yeah.
Kenneth,
can I come in there, Peter? Yeah. This is a much bigger conversation. Obviously, that we could talk all day on this, but we have to acknowledge that consumer behavior has changed over the last 10 years. We have to kind of understand that, you know what I mean, on the mass consumer level. So the concept of ownership has diminished because we stream things. The concept of time itself has diminished because we stream things on demand. So when we want to, so there is a whole generation there of people who are the true digital natives, who that's all they understand. Those are the terms that they understand. And then there's people like, older, like us who are basically knew the way it was, kind of know the way it is now, doesn't have a clue about the way it's going to be. But that's where we need to kind of be thinking. Now, much as I'm a huge technologist, I make no apologies for that. I'm a huge fan of technology, but I'm also extremely wary of where it's taking music, because we've seen it decimate the music industry. And in fact, there is no revenue in streaming, audio or video, right? And it's extremely hard to monetize because the platforms by which you put it on are inherently free. We pay for them with our personal data. So basically, everybody is expecting something to be free, to be free, to be free. And then when they're presented with, you need to pay for this, it becomes this huge problem. And people are not interested. However, the flip side of that is that the discovery of music may be increasing. So I think we need to recalibrate how we position, the marketing of this. When it comes to the musician, though, playing on front of no audience is the death of music, because the half of the equation is missing, which is the audience and that energy, because the artist needs to feed off the audience, and the audience, frankly, needs to feed off the artist. And without that agreement, without that binary, music will suffer. Now, as a stopgap, playing to a streaming audience, and I've seen so many fantastically streamed concerts who've been this summer, the quality of which has been phenomenal, audio and video, right? But you know what? At the end of the tune, when there is no applause, it's soul destroying. It's soul destroying. And if you have the capacity, Peter, and anybody who has a venue, to kind of watch something on a 2-dimensional screen and then turn around and go into a 3-dimensional space and experience it, of course, there is no comparison. But we did a survey in Ireland, and I suspect it might be similar. We asked our audience, would they be interested in attending streaming concerts? We asked this in mid-August, and over 70% of them said, no, I'm going to wait until things are live. And then we went and did a paywall stream show, and we got all these people. And you just don't know. I think that over time, the desire for people to actually interact with culture and music just gets higher and higher and higher. So I think a lot of people are investing in the technology to have this bifurcation of digital and real. And I can tell you that one is a very, very poor substitute for the real thing. But that's the only option for a lot of people. So we can't ignore it, because to do so would be ignoring a segment of the audience that might, and actually there might be a way to monetize it through this solidarity period, so it's a tough one.
We just had a music consumer study been presented yesterday on Reeperbahn Festival, and the average of amount which people would pay for a stream concert is between 6 and 9 euro. So that's the first time that we got a figure for that. And it is the paid streaming accounts on Spotify and Co. had been up to 29%, from 20% to 29%. So it's a kind of thing. Once you have a smart speaker, then you start getting these kind of paid services with Amazon or with Spotify. And so I think that the consumer in the center of what we are thinking about is still has a lot of money for a live experience show. So they will go to our clubs, so no doubt about that. But as long as we have limited capacity, we have to think to something like get revenue on different kinds of try to make money out of it. In the end, we have to show anyhow. So when it's just 100 people
a lot of venues are doing 2 shows per night now, and the artists have agreed, and that is obviously one solution, and turning the venue around to have, double your audience, but you're at
That's
some point
the
you're going to
American way anyway. For many years,
yeah.
I mean, sure, they have 2 or 3 shows a night, and they just change the audience. This will happen here as well. I mean, this happens already, I think. As Kenneth said, we could, of course, talk about that for hours and hours, but our time is limited and it's over now. So just we cannot sum up anything, but just to say that we should indeed foster live music in the future, and have live music because without it, it's almost nothing. And streaming is fine, and a good hope and media solution, but live music should carry on. So, thanks Karsten, thanks Kenneth. See you hopefully at jazzahead next year.
Yes.
Okay.
Look forward to it, Peter. Thank you.
April, and that will be online, and that will be hopefully live as well. So, have a nice day. Thank you.